Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share yet another update on my experience with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 3. Now, for those of you that caught my last video, you already know my Wi-Fi stopped working. There was no reason. I've never dropped my device. I've never gotten it wet. It's lived its entire life in a case. First, it was the Samsung flip cover case that came with the S Pen, and then I moved to a speaking case. Of course, I tried everything with this device to get it working, essentially reset the Wi-Fi, the network settings, I should say. Then I did an actual factory reset. Then I did a hard reset. And then last but not least, of course, I flashed the firmware. And for anyone that didn't see the video, the Wi-Fi just cannot turn on. You try that, it stays a lighter shade of blue, nothing happens. You try going into settings, turning it on, nothing happens. I know that's not so clear, it's a little too bright, but it just doesn't work. So after all of that, I decided I'll reach out to Samsung and let's see where the warranty process goes, even though I have Care Plus, because after all, this should be covered under warranty, and I figured at the very least it would get repaired or they would replace it. Well, after going through a little bit of hell with their customer support, which took a couple of hours, yes, even with all the information I gave them that I just shared with you, they still insisted on trying to do everything that I already had, except for, of course, flashing the firmware. They can't do that remotely. And I had to watch as they, replicated the problem, which was a huge waste of both my and their time, even though they're getting paid. I then shipped it in, and of course, I then got a mysterious email, which you can see right here, that stated power, no power after upgrade, and essentially told me the warranty was voided, and then gave a charge of $107.17 with absolutely no description other than standard repair fee. Now, you can imagine this was disturbing to me. I called, asked what was going on. They had no information to share except for that apparently my phone, upon inspection, had scratches all over the device, which freaked me out because it has no scratches. So when I heard that, they told me the front, the interior, as well as the back and the hinge all had scratches. And then finally, they told me I would be getting contacted by the repair center. They called me on, I think it was a Saturday morning, and they told me about that charge. I said, what's going on? I said, because I heard that the device was scratched, even though it has no scratches. And as I told all of you, it's lived its entire life in a case and never been dropped or submerged in liquid or gotten wet, period. And that representative who was absolutely awful. She was based out of the U.S. I presume, well, I'm not going to presume in what call center. I didn't ask. But I figure somewhere in the South. She then went on to tell me that my phone had liquid damage. And I said, well, that's impossible. And she said to me, well, it doesn't have to get wet to actually have liquid damage at the connector. She actually went on to tell me that I could have sweat and damaged my device. You heard right. So we're to the point that Samsung is willing to tell you, and by the way, Samsung's not the only one that'll make up this sort of bullshit. Every manufacturer will. And that's one thing I want to say. This is not in defense of Samsung. It's in my experience. There is no company on this earth that, unfortunately, I'm not going to say that they don't stand behind their products, but that won't put you through a bit of hell in order to get a resolution. And anyone who tells you differently is a fanboy or girl, because it's just a fact of life, and you can take it from me. So if anybody chimes in and says, well, with Apple this doesn't happen, Apple actually created the entire game plan that Samsung is following. Yes, this is just unfortunately part of the business, a necessary evil, so to speak. At any rate, that representative continued to tell me that it would be $107 or they'll ship the phone back. I asked her where we would go from there. Are there any details? Did they even check what the problem was? She said, I don't even know what the problem is with the phone. I said, well, it has to do with the Wi-Fi radio not functioning. And she stated, well, all she has, is that bill. And if I don't pay it, they will just ship the phone back. And I said, well, but what does that mean? If I pay that bill, are we then going to have another bill? Because that's just for them to actually examine it, because they've told me now that my warranty is voided because apparently I sweat big and I sweat right into the jack. That's what I'm known for, if you didn't know that. And she basically said, yeah, I said, so this is a mining expedition? And she said, yeah. I don't know if that was a Freudian slip and she had, or she was just not paying attention and was yesing me. But either way, it was an unnerving call that went in circles because she just couldn't give me any information. She was basically a human cash register because all she was looking to do was collect payment. I think what made it worse was had she just said to me, look, I'm just here to collect payment and I know nothing, I would have said I understand. But instead, she pretended to know things, like when she started telling me that I probably sweat into it and broke it. And then basically, she did harm to herself by trying to pretend she knew what she was talking about, which just showed that she does this with every customer she takes advantage of, which is pathetic on her part. Even if she's being instructed to do so, you can still, of course, come to the table with a little bit more than the playbook. At any rate, of course, I got off the phone with her and I said, hold the device. I'll call back if I'm going to pay to take the next step. I want to contact Care Plus. And that was the next thing, because after all, I had a year of Care Plus service. I've never dealt with Samsung Care Plus, but this was the next rodeo. Now, when I spoke to them, they were very friendly. And I explained to them what had happened here with Samsung claiming that the warranty was voided, and that was impossible. The representative said to me, look, I'm not going to charge you the $250 deductible because it's a manufacturer defect. I said, I appreciate that. I said, I'm not going to accept a refurbished device because my device is in perfect condition, which it is. No scratches, no nothing. It is perfect. The Wi-Fi doesn't work, but that is it, and that's a defect. He said, that's not an issue. We'll send out a brand new device. You may get a text, etc. The next day, a device was shipped. I was like, wow, I wish I had spoken to them from the very beginning because, well, I would have just got my phone and never gone through any of the headache that I did go through with a total of like a half a dozen calls to Samsung's traditional warranty support and then that horrible service center rep. Then the device arrives, and of course, it is refurbished. Now, it's really clean. I mean, a little bit of scuffs, a few here and there, but even the hinge feels stiff. I've thrown my SIM in it already, and that's because the minute you receive a device from Care Plus, you have 10 days to return the original device. So if I don't start basically interviewing this one, I'll never know if it's decent, even though I do not want a refurb. And I reached out to the insurance company, to Azurian, to say, you sent me a refurb, and they said, well, that's all we send. I then got a supervisor on the line, also in the U.S., and I explained the whole situation, and she said, we don't send out new phones. And I said, that's not true. I said, you do. It's based on inventory. And I was assured by the representative that I spoke to, I was getting a new phone, not a refurb. Otherwise, I would have never accepted it. She understood that. She said, I'll put in notes and express that you want a new phone. And I feel badly that they're even phrasing it that way. It's not about what I want. It's about what's right versus wrong. It's not about my expectation. I didn't drop this. I didn't get it wet. I didn't break it. If I did any of those things, I deserve a refurb, frankly, because that's the way the insurance business works. Whether you like it or not, I understand it. That's what you're getting involved with. In this case, I did nothing wrong. I don't deserve someone else's return or whatever you want to call it. At any rate, she said she'll put it through, new claim. I have to ship back this device when that one comes in. Again, the same 10-day dance. And I said, okay. Now, the only catch there is that, of course, she still is not guaranteeing they're going to send me a new device. So now the question becomes, do I reach out to corporate, to a PR channel and just explain to them what has happened? How much of my time do I want to invest in this shit show? And that's really what it's become. And it's sad because this is my favorite device. Anyone that follows the channel knows I love it. Great candy bar phone that opens up into a nearly 8-inch tablet in your pocket. Of course, what is supposed to have IPX8 water resistance for up to 30 minutes in 1.5 meters. But I never even got it wet, and they're claiming liquid damage. So work with that. I mean, I had so many comments back on my Z Fold 2, which is still working like a champ, that even though it doesn't have an IP rating, it can survive water damage. Well, don't test that considering what Samsung's claiming here. Now, do I think this is a bogus claim on Samsung's part? Yes, I do, because the only other instance I found of this Wi-Fi mystery issue, a person, it was actually, I believe it was on Samsung forums, I don't remember where I saw it, same exact problem, the only instance I could find on the entire internet, and essentially they sent it into Samsung, and Samsung slapped them with over $500 of repairs for that Wi-Fi radio, and they voided their warranty claiming water intrusion, liquid damage, which of course is not covered. Just like accidental damage, it falls into that realm. So I kind of saw this coming, but wanted to believe the best in Samsung, that they wouldn't try to do that. But with me, they were even worse, because they did not actually get to giving me an estimate. They just hit me with an estimate for getting an estimate. In other words, that 107, as I asked that rep from the repair center, was just the beginning. It was, I pay a fee to then go on a mining expedition, as I call it. And she agreed, as I stated. So we'll see where this goes next. I mean, and by the way, I wouldn't reach out to PR because of what I do here on the channel. It's what I did before I ever was involved with YouTube. If I had a product and things went wrong at the customer service level, I went to corporate. And that's because I know that just because one arm of a company doesn't stand behind their product doesn't mean that the company doesn't stand behind their product. So you give manufacturers a second chance. Now, not everybody has the time or the will to do something like that. So certainly not an adventure for everyone. And myself right now, I'm fed up enough. I really don't want to go that route. But we're going to see how it plays out. Either way, I will have to ship this back, which is sad. But, I can't keep a dud that has no Wi-Fi capability. That's how we got here. And this one seems okay. But again, getting a refurb for something that shouldn't be a refurb, in my opinion, is quite disturbing. Now, I was curious for any of you that have the Z Fold 3 and have gone through Care Plus, have you gotten a new device? In all likelihood, you probably haven't, especially if you broke the phone, because they have no obligation to give you one. Just as they really have no obligation here with me, and it's a matter of principle, which they don't necessarily have. So we'll see how it plays out. It is a bit of a shit show now. Thankfully, I have had my Z Fold 2 to hold me over, which if I didn't, I would have had no phone, which is really terrible on Samsung's behalf. Their reps even said to me, do you have a replacement phone? And I said, yes. And they said, that's good. I said, what if I didn't? And they were like, we wouldn't be able to help you. So I felt like saying, well, then why did you ask that? That makes absolutely no sense. At any rate, I wish I had better news for you. I'll reiterate, this isn't only a Samsung problem. Again, every manufacturer is going to make your life a little bit of hell. Some are better than others, but these days, with how farmed out to third parties, often the beginning, the first several layers of customer support are, you may even hear the same hold music. It's like you can't escape the hell that is customer support. Customer support has never had a great reputation in any business, but it's only gotten worse as, of course, prices and costs continue to be squeezed until, they almost don't exist anymore. So this is all while I'm still reviewing the Tab S8 Ultra over there, which is fantastic. I don't now hate Samsung as a result, but it's interesting because a lot of you that watch my content think that I'm a fanboy of Sammy. See what I did there? Just for you. But the reality is that I appreciate products that are made really well. In this case, I'm not having a great time with the Wi-Fi, but boy, did I see so many posts when I went through the Care Plus experience forums about people with the black line down the center of the display, and that Samsung automatically essentially identifies scratches on the phone and then voids their warranty. And I get that that totally sucks, but I have to say that I have not had that problem. So them pointing to scratches on your display when you have a defect that you may or may not be responsible for on the display, and I'm not saying you're responsible for it, to be really, really clear, I get where they have something to stand on with screwing you. But with this, the Wi-Fi radio miraculously dying and then pointing to liquid damage, if there is bigger bullshit, let me know, because I'm not aware of any. And I'm just the wrong guy to screw with on this. Not because I'm going to go after them, but it's just, I know what I'm working with. Again, it's easy to fool or bamboozle people that have no clue, but when you do it to someone that clearly does, you're kind of asking for a swift kick in the ass. At any rate, that wraps up where I'm at right now. Wish me luck. Hopefully things improve. My condolences go out to anybody that got the runaround on, the black line down the center, because that is definitely a shit show. Again, on an $1,800 device that they really should be standing behind. But in the same vein, there probably is a way to easily make that happen by putting pressure on the spine or the display. I don't know. All I know is, I'm obviously nearly 2 years into owning this, and I've never had any issues like that. And with this device, also no issues. So I'm not saying it's user error or user based, but it's definitely more suspicious than a Wi-Fi radio ceasing to function. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of defect with the Fold that they know about, but unless anybody's going to actually reveal internal memos about that, speculation is exactly that, purely speculation. This, on the other hand, I mean, just pointing to liquid damage, I knew they were going to try to pull that based on that one other user on the internet, and they were predictably boring on this and frustrating. So sorry about the rant. I'm curious to see, if I will actually get a new device, but I didn't tell you that supervisor, when she created the claim for the replacement on the refurb, essentially hit me with an affidavit. It flagged or triggered automatically with the claim that requires me to give photo ID, proof of purchase, even though, of course, this is from Samsung and the Care Plus is with Samsung, so it's all on their books. I know this is another company, but it's still under the umbrella of Care Plus, so come on, get it together. Why would I provide this stuff? I mean, I'm going to have to, but photo ID, proof of purchase, and then if I have a police report, I have to write up. I mean, I don't because it's right here. This wasn't stolen, but obviously that's what it's designed for, lost or stolen, so I don't know why they're putting me through more work, but maybe that's the paperwork for getting a new device. I have no idea. I don't think it is. I think I'm just getting the runaround. But that rounds it out. I don't have any other thoughts as to how this may have happened. I'm just pissed off like anyone would be in this situation. And I, like all of you out there, have these problems. And, when you go through high volume of electronics, it's bound to happen. It's probability. It sucks, but it's part of life. We're lucky to be here. And that's the way you got to look at it. Beyond that, the only other thing I could think of is that I did see one video with 30 some odd views. That's how desperate I was, talking about speaking cases adhesive ruining a 5G radio on the Z Fold 3. Now, I did have speaking case, two cases, the Thin Fit P and the other one's the Neo Hybrid, half and half, and no damage from it. And I don't think the Wi-Fi radio is here. I mean, this is the antenna, to my knowledge, from the 5G, or it's part of the 5G radio's antenna. So that's more logical, but I'm just putting that out there because both he and I were using speaking cases with adhesive. I don't think that has any relevancy to the case. See what I did there? Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them, hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.